The rise of Gregor Gillespie was fun to watch, an undefeated fighter with a decorated college wrestling background working his way through the rankings. But the hype train got stopped hard by a head kick from Kevin Lee. Gillespie hasn't been the most active fighter since his last loss, and has had only one fight since 2019. Today, we'll be looking at Gregor Gillespie speaking on rumors of his UFC release. First up, no longer in the rankings. The UFC's rankings change every week, and there's always something that gets our attention. Earlier in May, people started noticing that Gregor Gillespie was removed from the UFC lightweight rankings. It was shocking for many people, as most of them jumped to the conclusion that he was being released. In hindsight, it doesn't make a lot of sense. The guy's coming off a win, and seemed to be a guy fans love to watch despite his wrestling base. The best possible explanation for this removal was that he hasn't had a fight in a year. His last fight was against Diego Ferreira back in May 2021. Before that fight, he was on the sidelines for more than a year after losing his first pro MMA bout. Many people thought that he had lost his confidence and didn't want to compete again. He proved them all wrong after putting on a grappling clinic that earned him the fight of the night. He even got the TKO win, but still, for some reason, we haven't seen him back in there since then. Next, silencing the rumors of UFC release. The former Ring of Combat champ took to Twitter to set the record straight on the rumors. He said that he's still a part of the UFC roster and his contact hasn't expired yet. He thought the standard protocol was to remove the fighter from rankings after 12 months of inactivity, which he's crossed. He went on to say that he really likes being a UFC fighter, despite what other fighters might say about the organization. He's never had a problem with the brass and has always been treated fairly. He even touched on the topic of fighter pay, saying that he's very happy with his contract and what he's getting paid. That seems to be a bold thing to say when more than half the roster has raised their voices against the UFC for not paying them fairly. The New York-based Gillespie is confident that he's not going anywhere. He doesn't blame the matchmakers for his inactivity. This probably means that he's been offered fights in his year-long layoff. The UFC is obligated to offer 3 fights every year to a fighter. He said he's accepted all the fights against guys who are ranked higher than him, as long as they weren't on short notice. He also explained the reason why he doesn't want to fight guys ranked behind him. Gregor thinks that the best way to get to the title is to fight higher ranked fighters, and having to compete against people behind him would only slow him down. But you know what else would slow you down? Not fighting at all. 35-year-old is more than aware of his situation and is looking forward to making some changes. To make things more interesting, he decided to call out some of the top fighters to get their attention. He mentioned the fact that Tony Ferguson had turned down the fight numerous times. Rafael dos Anjos was also willing to fight him on a week's notice and said no when he was offered to fight with a full camp. Even Michael Chandler didn't seem to be too interested. He mentioned the name of Beneil Dariush as the guy he's looking forward to facing. He also said he's willing to face any of the other guys he mentioned. Let's just hope he gets what he wants, because we just want to see him in there with anyone. And now for recovering from a KO. One thing that hasn't played in favor of Gregor Gillespie in the last few years is inactivity. When you suffer a brutal KO, it's understandable for a fighter to take some time off and make sure their head's in the right place. These type of knockouts can change a person entirely, but we've seen many athletes in the past suffer from brutal finishes and come back stronger than ever. Michael Bisping is a great example of a guy who perhaps took the hardest punch Dan Henderson's ever thrown right on his chin, as Hendo jumped on him with another right when he was already unconscious. That video will be replayed till the end of time. It was also the first time Bisping got his lights put out in his MMA career. When the former middleweight champion was asked about how he moved on from that loss, he said it wasn't easy for him. That feeling never left him. The Count went on to win the world title and avenge his loss to Dan Henderson while defending his title. A real BMF if there ever was one. Dustin Poirier also managed to conquer his demons after he was knocked out for the first time in his career by Conor McGregor. It took the Diamond 6 years, but he finally got his rematch and he became the first guy to KO McGregor. Funny how it all worked out. It's hard to imagine what's going through the head of Gillespie, but we've got to think that it's time for him to get back on the horse. He's 35 years old and should be looking to make a run towards the title. The memory of the MMA fans has always been short term. They only remember you for your last performance. And even though he got the win over Diego Ferreira, it's been over a year since that fight took place. He needs a fight, and all the fans want to see him back in the octagon. Next, in other related news, Joanna Champion takes her gloves off. This past Saturday, we might have seen the last fight of the Boogie Woman. The 5-time UFC strawweight champion Joanna Jędrzejczyk took on Zhang Weili in the most anticipated rematch in women's MMA history. The UFC president Dana White announced that the winner would be next in line for Carla Esparza for the title. The fight ended in the second round after Weili connected with a spinning back fist that shut Joanna's lights off. This was the first time we saw her get knocked out, and it wasn't very fun to watch. In her post-fight interview, she took her gloves off and announced her retirement. Even though she can still compete at the highest level, she wants to hang it up. She's in her mid-30s and would rather be focused on being a mother and a businesswoman. The moment was super emotional, and the former champion held back tears as she said goodbye. If this is what it looks like, and we never see Joanna fight again, gotta pay respect for such a legendary career. She's one of the greatest of all time, and she'll be a future Hall of Famer. So is this the best lightweight-heavyweight fight of all time? Glover Teixeira and Jiří Procházka went on war in the main event of UFC 275. The fight was as entertaining as it gets, with each fighter having a counter to the other's attacks. Every 30 seconds, we thought the fight might end, but then the other guy turned the tables. We know Jones versus Gustafsson is a legendary fight, but this one might be the best we've ever seen, filled with striking exchanges as well as high level of grappling sequences. The fight went into the 5th round, and it looked like Glover was up on the scorecards. With only 20 seconds left on the clock, Jiří managed to sneak in the rear naked choke and get the W. It looked like the 42-year-old was just 20 seconds away from a successful title defense, but it wasn't meant to be his night. Procházka finally fulfilled his destiny, and there's nothing we'd like to see more than the two of them go at it one more time in the future. And finally, Usman versus Edwards has been booked. The long-awaited rematch between Kamaru Usman and Leon Edwards has been booked for August. The fight was supposed to happen earlier this year, but the champ had problems with his hand. Dana White had already announced that Leon was next in line, but he'll fight for the belt as soon as the champ recovers. The pound-for-pound king is on a 15-fight win streak and will be looking to tie Anderson Silva's record for the most in UFC history. This will surely place his amongst the greatest fighters of all time. Rocky's been on a 10-fight unbeaten streak as well. Their last fight took place more than 6 years ago. They've both evolved and are looking to prove themselves as the best in the world. Stylistically, Edwards has an advantage in the striking, and Usman is better at wrestling, but they're both pretty well-rounded athletes. It all comes down to who can implement their game. This one's gonna be a banger. That's a wrap for this video. Who do you think Gregor Gillespie should fight next? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.